Missouri and Louisiana have filed lawsuits against Joe Biden, Jen Psaki, Dr. Fauci, and other top-ranking officials for allegedly colluding with social media companies to suppress freedom of speech under the guise of combating misinformation. This is a bold claim and a bit of a legal stretch, in my opinion, but there's an actual argument here. Now, in the actual news reporting from a local outlet, this is KRCG TV, Missouri AG sues Biden admin officials for alleged social media censorship. They really don't give you a good argument as to why these lawsuits were filed. In this news story, they basically say some examples were given, like the Hunter Biden laptop story and COVID theories as well. The lawsuit then cites specific instances in which government officials made policy suggestions regarding social media platforms and vice versa. You don't get the full story if you are to read the local news, but I will break it down for you. I gotta say, they make a really good point for collusion, but I don't know if it can stand legally, that they will actually win this lawsuit. But at the very least, it definitely looks like some kind of government coercion on social media platforms. The reason collusion probably fits better, let me give you the simple version of their lawsuit. There are numerous instances in which stories have been suppressed that hurt Democrats. Democrats have threatened to wield legal action, litigation against these big tech platforms, notably repealing Section 230 or changing it unless they get what they want. Big tech platforms then took down stories that hurt Democrats. You see the point. Now, one may argue that Republicans also have threatened 230. Yes, but big tech did not take down stories that hurt Republicans. They amplify them. That is the tendency. That is the rule, not the exception. Well, it's certainly the exception that there have been stories that hurt Democrats that have made it into the mainstream social media spheres. It's typically, like the Hunter Biden laptop story, is the best example. Or how about people who got suspended for defending Kyle Rittenhouse when it turns out the courts agreed, the facts agreed, Rittenhouse was defending himself, consistently upholding a left and pro-Democrat narrative. I don't know if this lawsuit will fly. But here's the Twitter thread from Attorney General Eric Schmidt. This is the Missouri Attorney General who says that he's filed these suits. In his thread, he says, the lawsuit filed today alleges that the Biden administration colluded with and pressured social media giants Meta, Twitter, and YouTube to suppress and censor free speech on topics like the Hunter Biden laptop story, the lab leak theory, and more. Here are just a few examples included in the lawsuit that show that top-ranking government officials colluded with social media companies to censor and suppress freedom of speech. In October 2020, after publishing an article on the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop, the New York Post's main Twitter account was locked, and Twitter blocked other users from sharing the link. The lawsuit states, Biden, his allies, and those acting in concert with them falsely attacked the Hunter Biden laptop story as disinformation. Over a year and a half later, the Washington Post and the New York Times acknowledged the truth and reliability of the story, but not before the damage was done and free speech was suppressed by Twitter and companies. Beginning in February 2020, Facebook and other social media platforms began aggressively censoring speech about the lab leak theory, and Facebook updated its content moderation on COVID-19 to include false and debunked claims that COVID-19 was man-made or manufactured. According to the lawsuit, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is director of the NIAID, funded gain-of-function research, was exchanging emails with Mark Zuckerberg regarding public messaging and the dissemination of COVID-19 information on social media. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Alleged collusion, bro. You're saying Fauci was exchanging emails with Mark Zuckerberg about censorship policies, and then the information got censored? It's right there. Plain as day. In a March 15, 2020 email, Zuckerberg proposed to coordinate with Fauci to make sure people can get authoritative information from reliable sources, and proposed including a video message from Fauci because people trust and want to hear from the experts. I love to say experts in terms of Dr. Fauci because boy, was that guy wrong. Only after major media outlets confirmed that COVID-19 escaping from a lab is a feasible possibility did Facebook and others stop censoring speech related to the lab leak theory. Even the Wall Street Journal writes Facebook acted in lockstep with the government, speaking to them, working with them, and censoring information. That is a violation of 1A. He goes on. According to Unheard, Facebook slapped warnings on posts related to the veracity of the lab leak theory, and Facebook itself claimed when people saw those warning labels, 95% of the time, they did not go on to view the original content. As a candidate, Joe Biden repeatedly threatened social media companies for not doing enough to combat misinformation. In a January 17th, 2020 interview with the New York Times editorial board, then candidate Biden stated that Section 230 of the CDA should be revoked. According to the lawsuit, candidate Biden also threatened that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg should be subject to civil liability and even criminal prosecution for not censoring such core political speech. I am sick of the overt corruption of these overtly evil people. And I say evil with such vigor, you'd think I was taking a dump. Further, in or around June 2020, the Biden campaign published an open letter and online petition calling for Facebook to engage in more aggressive censorship of core political speech. Even further, on September 28th, 2020, the Biden-Harris campaign sent a letter to Facebook accusing it of propagating a storm of disinformation by failing to censor the Trump campaign's political speech, including social media political ads. Now in office, the Biden administration continues to threaten and collude with social media companies to suppress freedom of speech. Remember when Twitter was like, we're going to stop allowing political advertising? Joe Biden wasn't campaigning. I don't know exactly when that stop happened, but let me just say, Joe Biden wasn't campaigning. He was calling a lid and hiding in the basement. It seems like all of this was meant to be like, we're being fair and saying people shouldn't be allowed political ads, but really it was hurting Donald Trump and Republicans. Attorney General Eric Schmidt continues. In a May 5th, 2021 press conference, Psaki stated, the president's view is that the major platforms have a responsibility related to the health and safety of all Americans to stop amplifying untrustworthy content, disinformation, and misinformation. In the same press conference, Psaki said that President Biden supports better privacy protections and a robust antitrust program. In a July 15th, 2021 press conference, Psaki stated, we are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff. It is right there, staring you in the face as we watch these big tech platforms destroy our speech, shut down legitimate conversations, all at the behest of the Democrats. Psaki also said, in that press conference, the White House was coordinating directly with Facebook to censor speech. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. This is huge. Wow, man. Additionally, in that same press conference, Surgeon General Vivek Murthy issued an advisory on the dangers of health misinformation, which poses an imminent and insidious threat. Facebook responded to Murthy's advisory. A Facebook spokesperson said the company has partnered with government experts to take aggressive action against misinformation about COVID-19. On July 16, 2021, Psaki stated that social media companies should coordinate with each other to censor free speech. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation. Sickening. Evil people. In a February 1st, 2022 press briefing, Psaki demanded that Spotify and other platforms do more to censor disfavored speech in response to a question about Joe Rogan. During an April 25th, 2022 press briefing, Psaki reiterated threats against social media companies. We've long talked about, and the president has long talked about, his concerns with the power of social media platforms, including Twitter and others, to spread misinformation. As outlined in our lawsuit, it's clear that top officials in the Biden administration have colluded with social media companies to censor free speech, and we're working to hold them accountable. Read the full petition. Amazing. I think more should sign on to this. I think private individuals should sign on to this. I think we need everyone who has an interest here and standing to be filing the same suits. The evidence has been laid out before us. They outright said they were in communication with these tech companies to censor speech. The government is not allowed to do that. It's fascinating. We have the full lawsuit here. Let me zoom in a bit. The state of Missouri, the state of Louisiana, plaintiffs versus Joseph R. Biden Jr., Jennifer Renee Psaki, Vivek H. Murthy, Xavier Becerra, the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the NIAID, the CDC, and Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, Jen Easterly, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and Nina Jankowicz in her official capacity as director of the so-called Disinformation Governance Board within the Department of Homeland Security. Now, when I read this initially, I'm looking through it and I'm like, it is true. We know they suppressed information that harmed Democrats. We know they've made threats. Right there, you have coercion. But we also know, thanks to many statements they made, but also Judicial Watch, as well as other lawsuits, Democrats have gone to social media companies. Documents have been released where they outright say, ban these people. And the platforms do. At least that's what's being alleged in the lawsuits. I have to say that because I don't have, I'm not party to the lawsuit, so I'm not making the allegations. They are. And for the sake of litigation, I will be careful in how I phrase things. Let me show you where we're at in terms of the fake news, the lies, and the manipulation. It's another story we have here. The New York Post says Trump quietly encouraged Elon Musk to buy Twitter. Truth Social CEO. Elon Musk has responded. This is false. I've had no communication directly or indirectly with Trump, who has publicly stated that he will be exclusively on Truth Social. So why did the New York Post post this? Well, apparently, they're saying the CEO of Truth Social made this statement. Quote, President Trump, basically before Elon bought it, actually said to go and buy it because the goal of our company is really to build a community where people are in family-friendly, safe environment, Devin Nunes said during an appearance on Fox Business. Nunes, who is now running Truth Social. That's despite the ex-president's recent public insistence he has no interest in joining Twitter. All right. Here's the response. The first response that pops up for me. CENSOR says, doesn't matter if it's false. Free speech means you can say what you want without consequences, right? Someone responds, the consequence is if your information is false, people stop listening to you. No, they don't stop listening. People believe the stuff that's repeated. All right. Let's discuss, my friends. Lies are free speech. Let me say that again for you. Lies are free speech. Sucks, doesn't it? However, you do have a civil action you can take in the event someone lies about you. I believe one of the biggest problems we have is with Times v. Sullivan. I do enjoy certain protections under Times v. Sullivan, but for the most part, I'm not seeking to lie about anybody. So it's only the liars who are really being protected by such standards. Times v. Sullivan is the actual malice standard for defamation. But if someone lies about you, you can sue for damages. It's not easy. But it's true. The reason why lies are free speech is that the government doesn't have the authority to determine what's true. This is actually part of the lawsuit. If we go over, they actually mention falsehoods are free speech. They say, the Orwellian guise of halting disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, or whatever. And they point out that the government doesn't have the authority to determine what is true and what isn't. And thus, it has been determined by the Supreme Court that falsehoods are protected speech. Let me make sure you understand this. Lies are not good. People lying, not good. If someone says the sky is green and you say that's a lie, what if to this person they have a vision problem and they see a green sky? Or what if they're what if they're looking at Aurora Borealis and they see green and the sky is green? The sky is green. Here's what happens. Somebody sits beneath the beautiful aurora in a particularly bright night and they see all the green and they say, wow, the sky is green. And they post it to Twitter. The government then says that is dangerous misinformation because everybody knows the sky is blue. So they ban the person's speech because they thought it was false, not understanding the context of what was being talked about. The government can't determine what's true, period. That means even though something may be a lie, it is protected speech. I would certainly recommend people not lie because lying is really, really bad. But this is the issue. For one, People don't understand that lies are free speech. Jen Psaki, Joe Biden, and the Democrats don't want information that hurts them, so they claim that true information are lies. Therein lies the main point. The Hunter Biden laptop story. Ooh, this is a really good example. We know the Democrats have been actually talking with big tech to censor people. We know that with the Hunter Biden laptop story, they did censor people, even the New York Post. We know that story is true, even now acknowledged by the Washington Post and the New York Times. We know that the Biden administration publicly stated it was fake news, that it was Russian disinformation. That was not true. And because of their manipulations, because of their threats of repealing Section 230 or damaging these companies' businesses, they were able to collude to suppress information. There's an interesting challenge here. What if someone has got a gun to your back and they say, do something illegal, and if you don't, they'll hurt you. So you do it. Now, in some circumstances, I'd assume in most, you're not going to be held legally responsible for that. Which brings us to an interesting point about the big tech platforms. Big tech platforms are allowed to censor you. The issue is not whether or not they did anything wrong. They're allowed to censor you. The issue is that the Democrats did something wrong. They coerced these companies in direct communication. The companies agreed. It doesn't matter if it is collusion. What matters is that it is coercion, and the government is not allowed to coerce a private entity to suppress their speech through threats of legal action, litigation, or criminal action. In this instance, it was, we'll pass a law hurting you. So I think it's clear. I think we need more people to get involved in these lawsuits, and we need to shut this down. We need to absolutely shut it down, because it is impossible for us to function as a democratic institution, a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives, if the information being sent out is all completely fake, but at the behest of government. If the government is going to make the threats, then they've already violated the First Amendment. The reason why the direct communication is important is that I think it's an interesting argument to say coercion, but if the government is saying we're going to pass laws, is that a direct threat? I think so, but there's an argument there. Now, we're all beyond that, because the Democrats went to these companies and said, do it. Do it. You must ban Elon Musk. Do it. Yeah, they're not going to ban Elon Musk. He's basically bought the platform already. But they did say, ban Donald Trump. Do it. And then you have these Twitter employees who are like, I can't do it. It's not the free speech way. Do it. And then whoosh, and then they cut off the free speech, the head of free speech on the platform. What happened in 2016 where Twitter went from being the free speech wing of the free speech party to the censorship platform? I think it's very obvious. You take a look at everything presented, and now we go back in time and look at the history. What do we have? Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube used to just be like, do your thing. Reddit as well. But then Donald Trump won. All of a sudden after this, misinformation was the key issue. People had to be suppressed, censored, and shut down for hate speech, for bigotry, for saying learn to code, for saying the name of a guy who works for the CIA, whose name you still can't say. You say his name and they'll shut you down. I think it's obvious that after Donald Trump won, powers that be, the establishment political class and the administrative state, took action against big tech platforms to suppress information that hurt their power. This is not how the United States works, and you are losing. Now, some people think Elon Musk is in on the game. I don't know. He's doing things I like, so I don't really care. They throw back to this photo from 2018 of Elon Musk wearing a jacket that says Novus Ordo Secularum or something like that. It's a New World Order in Latin. And there's a question about, everything Elon Musk is saying is just too based. It's like too on the nose. Maybe, but it could all just be that Elon has been red-pilled. Like when I tweet things, they're on the nose, right? It's funny that Elon says stuff and you actually have people who like freedom saying, this is too good for us. Take the win. If the worst case scenario is that Elon is part of this new world order, or he's like actually a part of the elitist cabal, he is the richest guy on the planet, that means we're winning. That means we won. If Elon Musk really was doing this just for the sake of trying to regain control of the narrative, that means we won. That means freedom won. That means free speech won. So, sure, I guess. It's like Scott Presler. I mentioned how he goes and he cleans up. You know, Scott Presler was going to like Baltimore and cleaning up the streets. And the left was like, he's only doing that to make Trump look good. I'm like, oh no. Oh, geez, he's making Trump look good by cleaning up the streets. Please don't keep cleaning up. Like, who cares? Who cares why he's doing it? He is making Trump supporters look good, but he doesn't really want to clean. He is cleaning. He doesn't really mean anything good by it. He just wants to make Trump look good. It's like, dude is doing good things for some perceived nefarious reason. I don't even know about any of that. I don't care. Elon Musk is doing tons of good things, calling out the fake news, fighting for free speech. Seems like he's a fan of the Babylon Bee. And now he's been mostly red-pilled. So good for him. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.